Good evening, everyone. Once again, thanks for joining us tonight. Pleasure to see you all. For those that may have missed earlier, I'm Jock Payson. I'm the interim managing director of the Ujima Fund. And it is my pleasure to be here tonight with Laura from CERO, Ujima's first investment that was made in 2019. We were really happy to be able to work with the company at that point and are still big supporters and big believers of the company and its future. I would just like to invite Laura now to give everyone kind of a general outline, Laura, of really how the business has been doing over the past year here, and any call outs that you want to make as far as recent wins or challenges. And I'll kind of let the floor be set from there. And of course, we'll come in later on with any questions. But Laura, I'll pass it over to you. Thank you.
Great. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Jock. Can I share my screen? I do have a few slides.
Let's get that set up 1 second.
You should be all set, Laura. Now, go ahead and try.
Yep.
Okay.
Glasses. Here we are. Oh, and let's just do the tab, sorry. See my screen now?
Yep.
Great, great. So I think that most everyone here is familiar with CERO. I'm not going to the Wayback Machine and talking about our origin story or anything like that. This is really what we think of as an investor update, and really felt like the most helpful thing I could talk with you all about is sort of a recap of this year. And I feel like those photos we took in 2020 show you kind of the real deal about figuring out how to protect ourselves, socially distanced, figuring out how to survive as a small business during a pandemic. And I was thinking about how we got through it in the shorthand. CERO was deemed an essential business early on in the pandemic. People are eating a lot of food. Food waste still has to go somewhere. And so composting made us essential. We were able to keep all but one person on the payroll. We laid off one driver because we lost half of our business. It took a lot of determination to get through it. And I remember us getting together from time to time, and the workers, what I heard the most among everybody at CERO was that we were grateful that we could keep on working. We were grateful we were able to keep everybody healthy. And that's the shorthand for it. I've got some charts here that sort of give you the business story in a very pictorial way. You might not be surprised. I don't know if I can do a pointer on this. Can you see my cursor?
Yes, we
Maybe
can.
not. Oh, okay, great. Thanks, Yara. These are just 4 different ways of looking at the same thing. When I said we lost half of our business, you can see in here that was March we shut down. We saw the most severe impact on our business in April, and we've been slowly working our way. So this is, we measure our business in a lot of ways by the number of totes we pick up. That's the bins that our customers put the compostables in, and we measure them, we weigh them, we bill our customers according to the number of totes they produce, and we pay for tipping the material and the labor involved in handling those totes. So here's this one is by industry, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, you can see where the majority of our food waste is coming from. These are the bigger contracts, obviously, in the blue. Supermarkets are in there, as well as schools are another big one. And I mean, you can look at that, but I think that this is also maybe an even more direct way. This is looking at it from purely a revenue projection. In April, like I said, we went from almost $60,000 a month in revenue to just a little bit over 20, I think it was 22,000. I think we were at like 58,000 here. Oops, I hate it when I click my cursor and it changes the slide. It's such a spoiler. Yeah, and we've been kind of crawling our way back up. And in fact, by October of 21, had surpassed. Now, the primary reason that this is true, this is what I think looks like a very positive pandemic story. I think we were luckier than most. And of course, we used the grant and assistance programs that were available to CERO throughout, and without that, we would have been sunk. But those increases that you see towards the end of the year have a lot to do with getting those big contracts with Northeastern University and Boston University that really added a lot more work on our plate and helped us come back from the pandemic. We're not all the way there where we need to be yet, but we feel like we're pretty much on track. And those are all the specific slides I have. I just think this is a beautiful photo. Our operations team starts at 4 o'clock in the morning. This is at Northeastern University. And that's Maya, who unfortunately left us 2 months ago. That's Josefina there, who's the head of operations, and with her, Robert, one of our drivers. And as suggested to me, Nia wanted me to talk some about how you all can be involved in helping CERO. So I put together this slide. In fact, there's a lot of ways you can help us. You can compost, you can encourage composting, you can, be a champion that way. We talked about investment. You can invest and support capitalization of especially co-ops. We're all about that, and signing on to these things. We really want, so like I said, you can promote composting where you work, where you shop. A lot of customers have a lot of influence. So if you're sitting in your favorite restaurant, it's always a great idea to ask them, hey, who are you guys composting with? And if they're not, you can offer them CERO as a suggestion. We're looking for help with all of these things. We're always looking to help add customers. And I have to say that when it came to us getting customer, I was describing these university contracts that we got, the community, including Ujima, was very involved in, I believe, helping us get those contracts. We had, I approached this like a community organizing campaign. So we had alumni, professors, faculty, student groups, and our community partners, writing letters of support to these universities, encouraging them to make the local procurement with MBE businesses. We're the only composting company out here that's a MBE, WBE, worker-owned cooperative. And we have no doubt that with both Northeastern and Boston University, some of it had to do with the timing of this year when people were actually maybe looking more deeply at their procurement sourcing and wanting to do better in that regard. Whatever way it happened, we're happy that it happened. And folks are really, really happy with our service. And it got us in the door to have so much support. So thank you all who were a part of that campaign. We're also hiring. We are really understaffed right now. If you know any CDL drivers or anybody who knows any CDL drivers, we want help with that. We need someone to help us in the warehouse, keeping our equipment clean and in good shape and everything organized and tidy in there. That's a part-time job. CDL drivers can be part-time or full-time. And we are in the hiring process right now also for a customer success team members, which might also be shorthanded as sales. But it is more than sales because we do very intensive hands-on customer support with our existing customers. And this person will start in that kind of a role, doing trainings and learning about composting and helping to monitor our programs and support our customers. And it's a great opportunity for someone who doesn't necessarily have a lot of experience, but is interested and ready to put yourself out there as somebody who can train our customers and offer that kind of support. We are also looking for an MBE bookkeeping solution. If anybody has connections to offer for that, we're currently interviewing. Doesn't necessarily, it's not going to be someone we hire on staff. We're looking to contract with a bookkeeper. We also always seek additional investors, board members. We would love 1 or 2 community members who are interested in joining our board. There's not any specific skill sets, although we can use lots of different kind of skill sets. The main thing we need are people who are interested. If anybody has had board experience before and interested in helping us with board development. And there's always room for community advisors who feel you might have something to offer. Let's have a conversation about what else you all might be able to help with. I'm always happy to talk to folks. And now I'm gonna stop sharing and get ready for the Q&A part. Hi.
Great. Thanks, Laura. I'll open it up to anyone first. If you have any questions, definitely want to be able to use this time to hear what everyone is thinking. If you want to write it in the chat, please feel free to write it in the chat as well. And I'll be happy to pass that along. Otherwise, I'll maybe kind of get started, Laura, if you don't mind, with which is trying to understand the strategy going forward and how you all think about the business going forward. Obviously, it's great to see so many people support the effort and get you all into institutions like BU and Northeastern. How do you all think that looks, with other potential customers? Is it going to continue to take that community effort? Do you all feel like you all have learned to this point how to win these contracts and how to reply back to certain institutions that may be looking for your services? Just can you share some of the learnings in the go forward of potentially growing the business with new customers, or if you have your hands full, that's an answer as well.
We have our hands full and we want new customers. I think that over the longer term arc, say looking at the last 3, 4, 5 years of CERO, I think we've been learning a lot about what's the right customer mix, who's our ideal customer. We've been going through a lot about figuring out how to appropriately price contracts. We've learned just from BU alone, because of some peculiarities, however you say that word, of the Boston University bid process. We learned so much about how things don't always appear as they seem, are not always really as they appear to be. And we've had to do a bunch of hands-on negotiation, training, convincing Boston University to really partner with us in a way to build their program. I could talk more about that, but there's been some major lessons in that that have fed also our ongoing, ever-evolving sales strategy. So for example, we have been doing a deep analysis, and where we used to figure that the ticket was the larger, the better. So imagine something like a Wegmans grocery store. They have up to 20 to 30 of these big rolling 64-gallon collection bins every day. We service them 6 days a week. We've so far have stuck to our guns about not working on Sundays. And what we have learned from that, and a lot of this also is because of the evolving industry and the economy, that because of what we have to pay for the volume of that material, what we pay in tipping fees to the compost processing facility, that kind of a customer actually is quite expensive for us. If you can imagine, how long it takes for a driver to service a stop like that, where they're lifting the bins 3 at a time, pulling them back down. We provide clean out, so they get our sprayers out and clean them out. And they might spend an hour at that site. Versus where you have another customer type, which might only have 5 totes. Let's see, I just bid on one for Beth Israel Leahy. So hospitals is a good place for us. An example for them is 10 totes serviced twice a week. And for those 20 totes, we can more readily put together a bid that provides for a nice, healthy gross profit margin and helps cover some of our fixed costs as well. So we're revamping our whole pricing structure. What that probably means, there's always some gamble in that we'll lose customers, but we're kind of calculating those risks. We have really ascertained that our brand is strong because nobody else provides what we do. Nobody else provides the level of ongoing high touch service. We know that costs money, but we've built our brand on that because we believe that a lot of customers won't compost unless it's made to be simple, really well taken care of for them. It's clean, the training is there, and they can plug and play with CERO. We can monitor the program. We can let them know when adjustments are made. Now, along with that, the quality of one of our ideal customers is a business that cares about sustainability. They've either undergone a zero waste planning process. Once you do that, you realize that separating out and diverting your organic material is like the biggest bang for you that you can get in a company. It should be the first step that any company comes to if they have an on-site cafeteria or a food service, is composting. It's better than changing all your light bulbs to LED in an office building. And a lot of companies want to do that. The highest level of that is those who are the B Corp status. And so we have a couple of customers that are familiar names to you, like Amazon and Facebook and CIC and WeWork. Not that they have a large volume of compostable material necessarily, but they want to be saying that they're composting. So they come to CERO and they get the most sustainable form of composting. There's a lot of the big waste companies that say they're offering composting services, but it's really greenwashed false solutions. They're not committed to re-earthing that material to sequester carbon and grow new food and heal our soils. And that's what we've built our brand on, and we feel like it's working for us. So we're targeting institutional customers, we're targeting schools, municipalities, and those companies that really care about sustainability. And of course, that's a growing number of companies and institutions. Kind of a long-winded answer, Jock.
It was great. Thank you. I think you touched on a number of different things there, and obviously there is a greater push for sustainability and for folks to be responsible with their waste. And we just got one question in the chat actually that you slightly touched on there regarding your targeted customers going forward, but The question was from Sierra, and it mentioned, what was the impact of new institutional contracts versus smaller businesses? And what is the demand projection for 2022? And I guess I kind of want to just add to that. I know it's already a couple of questions, but just the appetite right now from small businesses, or is it just mostly those larger branded companies that you're seeing that want to take part in the sustainability trends?
Well, we want anybody who wants us. Our pricing becomes more competitive the bigger the firm is, right? Obviously, after COVID, customers that are small businesses may not have the cash to pay for composting. But then again, there's certain businesses that will save money on waste disposal when they do compost. And increasingly, they're going to be required to compost because of the DEP ban, which is what was the inspiration behind CERO's business plan, which required any entity that generated a ton or more of compostable material a week, which is about 8 garbage barrels full, is about a ton. Now the DEP is updating that requirement so that it now includes any entity that generates a half a ton. So as you can imagine, the bucket of customers, potential customers, has gotten much, much larger right now. In the old days, or up until the last few years, most of our sales approach was us doing outreach, us doing CRM, a lot of CRM, cold calling, kind of the old-fashioned kind of lead generation. Now, the smaller customers that we chase are the ones who are inbound, the ones who come to us, because then we already have the indication that they're predisposed to want to do this, as opposed to calling people who we think have some food waste and trying to convince them and educate them about what composting is all about.
Yeah, I can imagine that would not be a strain on time, but it uses time in the day, and certainly helps when there are those that understand the value that you all provide and reach out to take part in that. Another question that we have here is just around the capital needs of the business given the current growth in revenue. So have you all seen that has changed anything from what you need from a capital perspective? Will there be more investment? You've talked about the staffing. Can you just touch on that for a moment?
Yeah, sure. In 2019, the fall of 2019, CERO embarked on a financial restructuring with all of our lenders and investors, CF&E, Ujima, because we recognized that we had a balance sheet problem, that we realized we were going to need more capital in order to pursue our growth plan back in 2019, and began to work with our investors and lenders and some technical support from folks like Leaf, and we had a pro bono attorney from Ropes and Gray who helped us undergo a restructuring process, which didn't close until June 2020. So the outline for that was to negotiate terms on loans that we had so that it would give CERO more time to get to our break-even point. Most of those who extended their terms, like Co-op Fund of New England, also added additional capital at that time. And some of our investors shifted from debt, from loans, to a new category of equity shares that we created through this financial restructuring called contingent value shares. And this was interesting for people who are interested in investment. This was really cool for us to learn about, because this was a way of getting, usually when you want equity investments, your investors want a piece of the company. They want to be decision makers. They want, their ROI to be in a predictable way. But because we have impact investors who understand that it's about a lot more than that, and that the returns is about more than how much cash they're going to get. These lenders converted to these contingent value shares, which also, instead of like debt where you have interest payments, even in impact debt, you might have, some period of time that's that's interest only, not paying on principal. These who converted into shares, said, we won't require any payment on this for 5 years. And then when the payments do kick in, they will be pinned to profits in the company. So if we're not profitable, their payments will be smaller. If we are profitable, after the co-op makes its decision about reinvestment and making allocations to worker, I'm forgetting the word. Worker accounts, the worker accounts that as soon as somebody joins the co-op, an account is set up for them, and allocations by the board, which is led by the co-op members, go into their investment accounts.
Okay. Thank you for that. And obviously, having patient capital.
Patronage was the word I was looking for.
Patronage. So we have another question here from Dave that says, thanks for a wonderful presentation, Laura. He asks, where does the compost go? Do you give it back to community gardens, et cetera?
So there's 2 steps to that. So the food waste is the first thing that we have to transport. And we transport whatever we can, pre-consumer food waste, we actually take to a farm where it serves as feed to cows and pigs. Our truck, as soon as our truck comes up to the farm, the animals start coming towards us because they know it's supper time. It's really cool. That is what I would describe as highest and best use. Highest and best use is feeding people with food waste, but that's not going to be eaten by humans, can often be eaten by animals. But still the majority of the food waste we collect goes to a farm-based composting facility, windrows, where it's mixed with leaf waste and yard waste and becomes the secret sauce that helps turn that material into beautiful composted soil products. And in the growing season, we often truck that back to Boston for urban farms to contribute to urban agriculture. We have a couple of landscaping customers that we sell composted products to.
Okay, thank you for that. And please, anyone, if you'd like to ask your question out loud, feel free. But I do see Isaro's question here as well. You shared about the partnership with restaurants and hospitals. How about schools? In schools, education on the importance and needs of compost, but also training students on hand to organize compost. Have compost spots and use it on the garden at school. So I guess just, the integration with maybe not even just the universities, but maybe some of the high schools and middle schools in the area, and making it a more regular, I guess, practice at an early age, and teaching that. Has there been any type of integration with the school systems and any of the schools in the area around composting?
Oh, you nailed it, Jock. Yeah, schools is a tremendous target. I especially like us working with schools because of those culture change potential that you described there. We just before COVID hit, we were awarded the first City of Boston school pilot project. We were going to start composting at 6 schools. It was, I think, 2 high schools, 2 middle schools, and 2 elementary schools. And then COVID shut everything down. And so that got postponed. And now that we've had so many changes in regime at the city level, I think it's going to be rebid, but we'll be in on that. I'm talking to a number of cities and towns. When I mentioned municipalities before, that is usually the place that cities and towns are open to beginning composting programs. So I always recommend us talking about school pilots. Right now I'm in conversation with Chelsea, Revere, and Medford about those programs. We've also talked about it in Needham. We were doing a contract at a couple of high schools in Newton pre-COVID. So yeah, it's a really great target. And we would like to get back on that. I think that schools are really kind of overwhelmed with trying to figure things out. So when I go directly to schools right now, they're like, can we just please get through this year without getting shut down for COVID? So it's not really a place that I can push on. But, you know, a lot of these kinds of contracts, we will spend 2, 3, sometimes more years developing relationships with those places. That's part of what my job is in doing sort of the external relations stuff. A lot of times is spending time talking about composting with these kind of potential partners. We also talk about doing community drop-off sites for composting. I know that a lot of people really like the curbside programs, and you know, I know those guys and I support those guys, and I refer to Bootstrap and the other ones that are out there doing that. But we kind of believe that we're not really down for driving another diesel truck up and down neighborhood streets. So we prefer talking to people about drop-off locations, and we were looking at doing a program in Nubian Square last year. Again, that got stalled due to COVID. But if anybody's interested in pursuing some of those things with your neighbors, you know, you may not have a lot, but there might be a spot where we could put a couple of totes. You know, even I talked to the people at the city about this. Even if we had a volunteer who was willing to use their driveway as a spot that we could set up compost collection that a number of residents would share. That's another way we can do that. So there's a lot of flexibility for CERO. We just have to figure out how to make the economics of it work. And we're pretty transparent about that. Sometimes very rarely we have to say no, or we have to say, here's the best price we can give you. And folks make their choice from there. But we do have contracts that are as small as, you know, 2 bins a week that we'll pick up.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, big and small. There's a lot of work out there, and I think there will only be more, hopefully, going forward. There's a question here from Nia in the chat. Nia says, can you talk about the TA, the technical assistance you're receiving from BCCO? For those that may not know, BCCO is the Boston, I just had it written down, Boston Co-op for Community Ownership. I'm sorry, Boston Center for Community Ownership. Thank you, Stacy. And LEAF. So can you talk about the technical assistance you're receiving from BCCO and LEAF with regards to participatory budgeting, and want to highlight additional support beyond capital?
Right. Yeah, we go way back with Stacy and BCCO. Stacy and BCCO helped us form this co-op. Shout out to you, girl. Stacy ran our first co-op academy that led to the first bunch of us, the founders and me, to becoming worker owners. And then we took a break from each other for a while. Stacy was on our board for a while. And now we're and me in particular is really happy to be working with Stacy again, because she's giving me a lot of one-on-one coaching to help institute participatory budgeting, to help pull together connections between the work that LEAF does, which I'll describe in a second, and the work that we can do in the day-to-day basis, which will be a practical set of tools that I'm very excited about this year, really tightening up our financial management systems. And so what LEAF has done for us, Amin and Chris over at LEAF are, they are those computer brain people who, can put together a financial model with projections that any of you who are on the investment committees that are working with CERO have seen the projections that Amin and Chris at LEAF have put together for us. These are huge Excel spreadsheets. So now one of the pieces that Stacy and I are working on together is figuring out how to turn those projections into a workable, working budget that will be understood by and informed by our participatory budgeting process. And I can talk more about how we do that, but right now we're working on putting those tools together, I would say. I invite Stacy to comment also if she wants to, but I think she and I are working a lot on putting the tools together, number one, to advance the participatory budgeting process for CERO, hopefully for 2022. And then the other thing that we're doing is figuring out how to put together those financial model with we have some pretty sophisticated data collection software that we use for our customer relations management, for our data collection. We collect, this is another thing that's helped us win big contracts. I think our data is more sophisticated than pretty much any other company in our industry. So we're able to really, we have the drivers entering data with every pickup on our app, so we can provide accurate, bin count, weight reports. We can offer right sizing kinds of options for our customers. All of these things are kind of in the weeds, but important. And so we're going to be able to take that financial model that extends 10 years and have it function to help us put together cash flow management tools, reporting tools, and to be able to, work with a dashboard so that we can play through, strategy change scenarios, if that's what we want to do, pricing change scenarios, that kind of stuff. So we have not had real-time instruments yet, even though we've had great support. We're trying to bring more of that into the worker owners realm so that we can be doing those kinds of business decisions with that good financial information that stays accessible in real time, stays accurate in real time. You want to add to that, Stacy?
I don't think so. I think you said it really well.
Okay. Always spreadsheets are great, but you gotta put it all into practice, and I know that's a great process that you all are going through. It sounds like, especially the data aspects. That sounds extremely sophisticated to be able to optimize, what the client is using, and making sure, as you said, right sizing the services that they are contracting you all for. Which is always, I think, a great way to just deepen that relationship and kind of make your services a little bit more sticky and tough to let go, because you all provide that value on a day in and day out basis. So data is relevant in all industries, and apparently you all have figured that out. So that's great to see where things may go from there. I did kind of want to open it up to any more questions We have Laura for just a few more minutes here. Are there any last questions that anyone would like to ask or? Okay. See one more here from Nia, and I'll wait one more second to see if there are any others. All right, great. So the question here from Nia is, can you talk about the food loop partners you are seeking? Partners that you are seeking, food loop partners.
I would say food loop partners. Well, I think that everyone we work with is part of closing that food loop. So our customers, help close the food loop. We have customers for whom we provide compost collection services and also bring back soil to them. So like Green City Growers is one like that, where they have a lot of compostable material when they establish new gardens as well as and farms, as well as when they close them down for the winter and throughout the growing season. Actually, we work with those landscaping partners both to pick up compostables and to bring them back composted soil products. Somebody like Urban Farming Institute, where they contract for large amounts of composted soil every year, is another good partner for us for that. And then, there's a larger story to this about where CERO seeks to go in what we commonly talk about as phase 2, which is, I described the food loop that we're doing now, which is nice. We pick up from the greater Boston metro area to the tune of 100 tons a week. That's about 4, if you've seen our big trucks out on the street, it's about 4 of those loads, is about 100 tons a week. The only bad part of the story is that we're actually, that's a valuable resource, right? Because it can be made into compost products. So I feel like what we're doing now is exporting that. When we bring it to the composting facility, we're driving 30 miles each way to do that. And we're paying a tipping fee. So we pay $45 a ton for all that material that we give the farm, that we're giving, that improves their product. And then when we bring back the soil, we're purchasing that soil product back from them and, putting a delivery fee onto it to get it to our customers. So wouldn't it be great if we can work our plan for vertical integration and have CERO be part of processing the material more locally in a decentralized fashion? That would be a whole nother presentation that I could share with folks sometime. But that's where we look to be going in our later phase. We don't want to just be a bigger and bigger hauler. What we want to do is we want to complete the food loop in our own communities and derive the benefit of the composting and the energy that we can create when we do a different type of composting, which would be more suitable for urban environments.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you very much, Laura, for your time. And we do appreciate all the work that CERO is doing. And thank you for sharing so much tonight about the company and about ways that we can all be a part of the company's growth and its story going forward. So if there's any further questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or to Nia or Laura if you'd like to share any of your contact information for ways folks can get in contact with you regarding ways that they can participate with CERO. Please do let us know and we can pass that information on to others. So, oh yeah, Nia just asked if you can share that last slide. I think that's where your contact information was.
I just put it in the chat also.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Jock, and thank you, Laura. We're gonna remove the spotlight now, and we will stop the recording. Thank you once again, both Laura and Jock. Thank you.
Thank you all so
And
much.
now we will